Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer podcast. I am your co-host, Thomas Vick. I'm joined by the other co-host of this podcast, Seth Wilson. Seth, Happy New Year. How are you?
Thomas, I'm doing great, and Happy New Year to you. I don't know about you, but I always love the changeover of the years. I just feel like that renewed energy. And in fact, I kind of saw that on your blog post. It kind of jumped off the page of that renewed enthusiasm and dedication to serving estate planning clients. And boy, 2023 was a good year in terms of just helping a lot of people with this process. And I think 24 is going to repeat that and probably even be a little bit more. So I thought it'd be good maybe today to talk through a few of our methodologies as we think about what we're looking to accomplish through our goals this year. And then how does that intersect and interact with maybe getting your estate plan up to date as a goal that you may have for the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great time to think about goals for the year and maybe write some down and kind of figure out what you want to do for the coming year. I always sit down with my wife and we come up with some goals for the year, write them down, and we look back at them at the end of the year and we say, well, we've done pretty well with this, haven't done that, but we try to write them down because if you write it down, it'll be meaningful to you. And I got an article that you guys put out recently about how to kind of achieve your goals. How about you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. But it's essentially a concept developed on top of this SMART framework for setting goals. And Michael Hyatt is a kind of a productivity guru, and I think now does physical products for like the full focus planner and those types of things you can find on the internet. But he kind of added 2 letters to the SMART framework, so it's now a smarter goal. And the concept is really the acronym stands, S is for specific, making sure that you're identifying what you want to accomplish in detail, right? Kind of this is what you were talking about of writing those down so you can evaluate it as you go through the year. M stands for measurable, which answers the question of how do you know when you've hit the goal, right? A stands for actionable, and you want to try to use verbs to start the goal. The example in the article is walk 1 mile per day. R stands for risky, meaning that this isn't just something that you would normally do, but actually kind of pushes you outside of your comfort zone a little bit. And T stands for time keyed, meaning you have to give it a deadline or it won't get done. And E is for exciting. It's got to be something that lights you up a little bit, gets you motivated to, hey, I really am committed to doing this. And then R stands for relevant. And kind of the idea there is that this needs to be something that matches your value system and also is sort of reflective of the reality of your season of life. You can't always spend 80 hours working if you have young kids that you need to spend time with. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting framework when I was looking at some of your blog posts this week, thinking, all of these frameworks sort of tie into actually getting my estate plan updated. And so I thought maybe we could talk about that idea. And one of those for me was really that time key, give yourself a deadline and then making it easy. So the next action that I can take toward accomplishing the goal is maybe reaching out to Thomas and having that consultation.
Yeah. And once you, as I kind of mentioned, write down what you want, a specific goal. That's the first point under the smarter framework. Making a specific goal, an estate planning attorney can help you navigate that and actually get it into writing and make it happen, make it actionable. And so, yeah, it's a great time to sit down, think about your goals and to kind of take action on what you want to see happen in this new year. Great New Year's resolution is to get your estate plan in place. And you kind of think about what's important to you. What would, if you were to pass away, what would be important to you? What would you want to see happen with your young children if you have young children? What would you want to see with your your grandchildren, if you have grandchildren and you want to include them in your estate plan. You think about all those kinds of scenarios, think through it a little bit, and then come to an estate planning attorney's office, and we can help you put pen to paper, so to speak, and get it done.
Yeah, in terms of that, like taking that outcome that you're hoping to get to and then thinking about it in terms of actually a goal, right? So if I'm trying to protect my kids and my grandkids, that planning might look a little different than if you're just planning for your kids and not their kids, so to speak. And there's some creative opportunities there as you're thinking that through from an estate planning perspective as to what could you do? What kind of trust terms might you put in place to help the trustee accomplish your desired outcome there? And again, I think the relevant thing, the R part of this smarter framework makes a lot of sense here, because if you're a younger family with younger children, you may not be thinking, well, what am I doing on a legacy basis? Am I giving back to the community or through a charitable giving? But I'm really focused on making sure that my family unit right now is protected to the best we can. And so I think there's really that recognition that at each life stage, there's a lot of opportunity to just get that peace of mind in place, that you have a good plan, you're able to work that plan, and really kind of stop focusing on the estate plan aspect and really generating and spending the time with the family, which is the most important part of all of this.
Right, right. One of the articles that was in my blog digest today was how does estate planning protect young children? So as you're kind of thinking about, maybe you are recent parents, new parents, and you got a little one that you're now taking care of, what's important to you? And really the care of that child, if something were to happen to the parents, is what's most important. And so appointing somebody that you trust to be guardian in a last will and testament is so important. And that's probably the first thing that needs to happen as far as an estate plan is concerned when you're dealing with parents with young children.
Yeah, agree 100% on that, because what you don't want is, if the worst does happen, that in that time of what would understandably be very traumatic kind of scenario for the kids, that you added a layer of complexity of, well, who takes care of the kids now? You can make sure that you've already planned and designated that, and designated backups to your primary guardian or trustee at that point, because that piece of the puzzle is already in place. And if the worst has happened, the next least worst, if that's a thing, is going to be that the kids are going to go to a trusted caregiver for their benefit moving forward. And coupled with that then is naming someone, and it could be the same person as the guardian, but naming someone to watch over the finances as well. So if there are life insurance policy proceeds or those kind of things, you have a way to manage those for the benefit of the young children.
Right. You don't want to get in a situation where the court is having to manage the money. And so that's why it's important to have at least like a testamentary trust or maybe a revocable trust that can receive the funds of a life insurance policy. I think life insurance policies are, from my standpoint, my anecdotal standpoint, it seems like they're more popular. They're, people see the utility of having a term life insurance policy to be able to care for the family if the breadwinner is to have an untimely passing. And so if both parents are to pass away, then having somebody to take care of those funds through some sort of trust is really important.
Yeah. And Thomas, that sort of, if we fast forward to the other end of that spectrum, you had a couple articles that caught my attention. One is planning for elderly parents, but kind of this concept of a sandwich generation. Can you explain what a sandwich generation is?
Yeah, somewhere in between young parents and elder law. So you're kind of looking at, you've got maybe folks that are in their 40s or 50s. They've got kids that are, maybe just finishing up high school, maybe in college. What kind of estate planning should they, be looking at? They don't really need to have a guardian of their children anymore named in their estate plan. But there's always something that could happen. These are folks that are still working, still earning a living. They haven't, set aside, they're still working on building up their retirement funds and that kind of thing. But unfortunate circumstances happen still. And you want to be able to, maybe it's at the point now where the kids are able to serve in that representative role. They're now the ones that could be a personal representative or an attorney in fact under a power of attorney or a healthcare representative. You're in that situation where we've kind of turned the page on raising the kids, and now the kids can kind of take more of an active role if needed.
Yeah, and then you often have that side where you're almost becoming guardian for your parents.
Yeah.
If you're in that scenario. So you're literally the middle of the sandwich, right? You have kind of that the generation behind you and the generation ahead of you that you're now becoming more of a caretaker for as things change. And so it really is a very apt definition, that idea. And I think the recognition, first of all, that if you are in that season of life, that's a lot to handle, and you'll need that support around you, and you should be commended for, just all the energy it takes to do that and do that well. But also really be aware of, wow, there are some real issues here that planning can really help with. And you start seeing, oh, well, I'm helping my kids become adults and they need their plans in place or their powers of attorney or what have you. And then my folks are getting a little bit older now. And so they're addressing some of these considerations. What about Medicare, and what about Medicaid eligibility, and what about long-term care, if that's a potential, and leaving or gifting program. I mean, there's just so many questions that come up during this time. So I think that's just such a great resource for folks to kind of look at that article and kind of see what maybe as just a little checklist of, okay, we have these pieces in place, or maybe we're missing this and need to go get that figured out.
Yeah. Definitely have a lot to handle, a lot to consider when you're in that sandwich generation. Well, Seth, is there anything else that's on your mind that you want to talk about today?
Not from the blog standpoint. I'm just always, excited that we get back to turn the calendar over, so to speak. Although in a digital world, that doesn't happen as much anymore. You just kind of keep moving forward. But that renewed energy and focus that comes with the beginning of the year, I just hope that our new year gets off to a good start for everyone, that there is just an excitement about what the possibilities are in 2024 for folks. I'm excited here at our office, and I know you are as well. So tell us where we can go find you and get some of that excitement.
Yeah, again, my name's Thomas Vick. You can go to vicklaw.org and you can find all the information that you need there. How about you, Seth?
Well, we are here in the heart of Hamilton County in Noblesville, Indiana, and that's our web address, noblesvilleattorney.com. Best place to go find our contact information. So, Thomas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next week.
Happy New Year.